It's 2020, a new year, and it's time for an update on Vic Mignogna's lawsuit, where it is, how it got here, and where it's going. So stick with me, let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, guys? This is Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota, and today we're talking about the Vic Mignogna lawsuit as we enter 2020, where it is, how it got here, where it's going, all of that stuff. If you like these short, informative videos, please click like, please click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and if you really want to expand on what goes on in the short videos, come check out the live streams typically every weeknight, including tonight, January 3rd at 11 p.m. Central. Of course, if you subscribe and hit the notification bell, you should be notified when those live streams occur as well. Sometimes they do happen on weekends and stuff like that. So do that. Have fun. It'll be great for you, great for me. And then let's move into this discussion, okay? So back at the beginning of 2019, actually January 16th of 2019, the Broly movie came out in the United States, and that sparked a Twitter sort of conflagration. Yeah, conflagration. And of course, it started with a spark. A relatively small Twitter account from a person named Han Leia tweeted something about Vic Mignogna. It was picked up by Mars Girl, formerly of Channel Awesome, now of Channel Orangutan. And it was then that story kind of tumbled and ballooned into Jamie Marchi and Monica Rial and Ron Toye making some tweets about Vic as well, and culminating in Funimation, Fire, and Rooster Teeth. Funimation and Rooster Teeth. I always forget about Rooster Teeth, like a lot of their subscribers do. Firing Vic Mignogna around January 28th or 29th of 2019, and then Funimation making a public statement on February 11th via Twitter. These I guess, communications via primarily Twitter sparked a lawsuit because Vic Mignogna states that the defendants, Monica Rial, Jamie Marchi, Ron Toye, and Funimation, basically just lied in what they were saying about him online for the purpose of causing him damage, and that he received the damage that was intended. He was fired. He was canceled from conventions. His reputation has taken a massive hit from all of these allegations, and they're very serious allegations of sexual assault and other sorts of sexual harassment type activities that he insists are not true. He has maintained that all of these things are false since they were uttered. Now, he clearly received damage in losing the 2 jobs and then losing the convention appearances. How much damage is hard to really pin down because you never know exactly how much you're going to get at a convention. But either way, damage was received. He also alleged something called tortious interference. Now, this stems from the idea that the defendants actively engaged in interference with Vic's contracts with other people. So if Vic had let's say a contract with a convention, for example, I don't know what conventions we would be talking about, probably all the ones that canceled him, but let's say he had a contract with a convention set up, and then let's say some weirdo, hypothetically Ron Toye, sent a bunch of text messages to that convention to improperly interfere with that contract. Right? And then maybe there were phone calls between Monica Rial and Ronald Toye to the owner of said convention, Kamehacon, that where they wanted Vic removed from the convention. They threatened to do all sorts of things like breach their own contracts if Vic was allowed to stay, and that conversation and the text messages and all of that resulted in a convention breaching their contract with Vic Mignogna. That would be tortious interference with the contract. So he sued for tortious interference as well. And he also sued for something called civil conspiracy. And that's basically an allegation that the defendants, at least 2 of the defendants, and he alleged it against all of them, but at least two of the defendants worked together to engage in this tortious activity, like tortious interference or defamation, that they conspired, they worked together. This isn't like a grand conspiracy thing. It's basically two people saying, hey, do you want to do that thing that's unlawful? They don't say unlawful. Yeah, I want to do that thing. I'll tell my lie about someone and and I'll tell my lie. And then with both of our lies combined, we have Captain Defamation. And he goes out and ruins someone's career, livelihood, and reputation. So it's perfect. It's perfect. So that's kind of the allegations that were in the lawsuit. This was filed in April of 2019. And there's a GoFundMe for Vic. You can check it out, gofundme.com/Vic-Kicks-Back. It was started by me. You can read all about it, and you can read all of the people who hate that I did it. They're all over the place too. So, but there's a GoFundMe to pay for legal fees. He hired an attorney by the name of Ty Beard down in Texas, and they brought this case to court. Now, the case was dismissed in October and November of 2019 over some in-court rulings and a follow-up order. It was dismissed under something called the Texas Citizens Participation Act, or TCPA. This is an anti-SLAPP law, and the purpose of the law is to reduce costly, frivolous litigation that's based on protected speech. Now, here's the thing. Let me just put this out there. Defamation is not protected speech under the First Amendment. So if you can convince a court that what was said was defamatory, it's not protected First Amendment speech and should not be dismissed under something like the TCPA. Now, this is a pre-trial motion that is done, and there's some pros and cons to bills like the TCPA, but really, in this case, the TCPA is used to assert that people who went out and lied and have not denied what they said. They do not deny their statements, but they went out and lied about someone to get them fired and cause them reputational and financial harm, did cause reputational and financial harm, that them suing based on lying about them is frivolous. That's what has been decided in the current court. That's what the dismissal means. It says, well, they didn't deny saying what you said or what you say they said. They didn't deny when they said it. None of that stuff has happened. We're just saying that this is protected speech, that they can lie about you, cause this reputational damage, and lead you into harm. So that is dismissed. Now, if that sounds weird to you or unjust or whatever, that's because that characterization of it is absolutely unjust and weird. And that is why Vic Mignogna has appealed the initial decision of the court. The dismissal has been appealed by Vic and his team, and that is what we will be looking at over the next couple months with Vic's case. We should get more and more of the action happening in the appeals court as they take it up and as each side prepares their briefing, and then eventually it should culminate in a nice hearing and then a decision on whether or not the lower court's decision was proper or not. If you take the way I framed it, the lower court's decision was improper. If you take it a different way and say, well, what they didn't actually lie, they said true things, and you're allowed to say true things, then that would be something that should be dismissed, I suppose. But the question is, without going into an actual courtroom to argue about whether or not it was a lie, are we able to determine whether or not it was a lie? The logical answer is legally no, but that's how these statutes sort of work out. They're a mess because they can be abused. They have good intentions, but can be abused. Either way, that's where we are now. The dismissal occurred over October and early November, and then Vic filed his appeal. After the dismissal occurred, the appeals court will be hearing that appeal coming up soon. Now, Monica Rial and Ron Toye have filed cross appeals on the amount of fees that were awarded after Vic filed his appeal. So Vic filed the appeal Judge Chupp issued a ruling on fees awarding approximately $50,000 to each defendant because that's in the TCPA is a reasonable amount of attorney's fees being awarded to each defendant. So a total of about $200,000 in fees was awarded. Now about $500,000 to $550,000 in fees were requested. So getting $200,000 was a significant reduction in the amount of fees that were actually sought for and allegedly incurred by the defense. So since they did not get their $550,000, they have cross-appealed that fee amount. Although only Monica Rial and Ron Toye have done that cross-appeal. Jamie Markey and Funimation notably did not actually appeal the fee award. Jamie Markey, it makes some sense because Jamie Markey got the fee award she asked for. But Funimation asked for $170,000 on their own and got $50,000. So they did not appeal that, and presumably they've missed their appeal window. We should be outside of their opportunity to appeal that issue at this point. So going forward, we will have an appeal from Vic's side on all of the judgments so far. That includes all of the dismissals. All 17 counts were dismissed, and they're appealing all of that. And they are similarly will be appealing the amount of attorney's fees as excessive, the $50,000 to each defendant, or as improper. Now, if they win on the first stuff, the amount of the attorney's fees will be taken away, because if your case shouldn't have been dismissed, then you don't get the award of the attorney's fees. Now, similarly, as all that's going on, all of the defendants will have to combat that appeal. Jamie Markey and Funimation will have to file and combat that appeal as well. Now, in addition to that, Monica Rial and Ron Toye will be fighting for their appeal over the fees being too low for their award of a combined $100,000 plus some change. They will be fighting that and asking the appeals court to say that Judge Chupp abused his discretion and needs to award higher fees to them. And then, of course, Vic's team will be fighting against their cross appeal. So there's a lot that happened over the last year. This is actually a very fast moving case. I know it seems weird to say something that started in April and ended in November was fast moving, but it really was. The legal system on something of this magnitude moved very quickly, and that's because of the nature of the TCPA and how that works out. It's an expedited process. It's accelerated through the courts, and similarly, it should be accelerated through the appeals process as well. But don't let that get your hopes up that we're going to have some appeals action anytime really soon. Really, I would be expecting a couple months before we even see things kind of really start rolling into motion, with an estimated timeline between 6 to 12 months for resolution of the appeal. So we could have a 2020 that is monitoring this case for almost as long as we were monitoring it back in 2019. That remains to be seen, but that is where we are, where we're going, how we got here in a nutshell. Now, again, the transcript for the fees was released tonight, and it's really interesting. These transcripts that have come out since the initial hearing, the initial motion to dismiss hearing, in which Vic suffered a total loss on all 17 counts. And many people were concerned whether the judge would be prejudiced or something. I don't think so. I think the judge is just wrong, personally. But there were some allegations of unfairness and stuff like that. In the subsequent transcripts that have come out, the judge has seemed to be much more of a critic of the defendants and the defendants' counsel. And certainly the ruling of awarding only $50,000 out of $280,000 requested, or $100,000 out of the $280,000 requested by Monica Rial and Ron Toye, for example, is that's a massive reduction in the amount of fees, and it certainly doesn't indicate any sort of favoritism or some sort of blowout performance by them. In fact, they seem rather unhappy with that award, and that's been very interesting to see how the judge has or how the perceived perspective of the judge has changed as we go. Again, if you want to get involved in the long conversations, come check out the live streams, typically every weeknight at 11 p.m. Central, including tonight. If you happen to see this on the 3rd, come talk about it, come laugh, come have a shot of whiskey and relax. And we will talk about more legal stuff all this year. So look forward to seeing you soon. Remember to like and subscribe, and we will talk to you soon. Peace. Peace.